It's the day before Nigeria's 65th independence anniversary, and I'm really not sure what's in the air, but it doesn't necessarily feel like excitement, for what is supposed to be a momentous occasion. And I'm asking, shouldn't Independence Day be more like a public holiday, something ceremonious? And I also heard that, the Independence Parade has been cancelled. Kathy, are you excited about the Independence? It's tomorrow.
No.
But you're wearing green.
Yeah, I just like green. It's just purely coincidental.
It actually made me compare when we were growing up and now. Growing up back then, when it was a few days or a few weeks to independence, there was a lot of excitement, celebrations in schools, even at home. Yeah. So I don't know, why did we get it wrong?
We just grew up, Dash. We did.
Okay, well, the moment is actually we're meant to look back on how far we've come from, colonial rule to military dictatorship, and now it's 25 years of interrupted democracy. But beyond the red flags and fanfare, one question still lingers. What is the true state of our independence today? Has it matured into a system that delivers justice, opportunity, and dignity for all? Or are we still chasing the promise of freedom without fully experiencing it? Well, stay with us this morning as we unpack Nigeria's democracy at 65, or almost 65, if I must say, the progress we've made, the challenges that persist, and the possibilities that lie ahead. But first, before you go into it, I would love to understand what independence feels like in South Africa.
So in South Africa, we don't call it Independence Day, we call it Freedom Day.
Yeah.
And it's literally just us celebrating the freedom. But South Africa is a little bit of not a baby, much younger than Nigeria. We are 31.
Wow.
Yeah, 31 years of independence.
So Nigeria can be your sugar daddy.
Oh, I'm not sure about the sugar. I'm not sure about the sugar, but something in between. But we have public holidays, literally shut down the capital, which is Pretoria. We go to Union Building. We don't have parades per se, but concerts and a lot of festivities and all of that. So for us, Freedom Day is a big deal.
The fact that there will be no independence parade tomorrow makes me, wonder if even the government is feeling the crunch that all the citizens are feeling.
I don't think the government is feeling.
Kathy doesn't want to say it. But then, first.
Leave me, Dashen.
Kathy, I'm sorry.
But first, that's where you ended your... But first, Dashen, leave me. But first, Tiwa Savage went to do Big African Auntie, apologizing on behalf of South Africa's Tyla regarding her calling herself colored and then refusing to answer a question about that during an appearance on The Breakfast Club. It seems the apology on her behalf didn't sit well with the Grammy Award-winning Tyla, and in a performance said, in quote, "I'm not sorry," which many took as a response to Auntie Tiwa, the queen of Afrobeats. Before her rise to fame, Tyla had made a video proudly talking about her mixed race heritage on TikTok. She had the words, and I quote, "I'm a colored South African," end of quote, splashed across the clip like a badge of honor. The star said it meant she comes from a lot of different cultures. Here is her appearance on The Breakfast Club in 2023. Tyla, baby.
School me on these debates that they be having about your identity as a South African colored person. What does that even mean?
Can we not? Por favor.
Oh, I like that. We keeping that in the interview too.
Now, in her recent interview on The Breakfast Club, Tiwa Savage was asked about the situation from 2 years ago. Her response seems to have ignited another firestorm of controversy. So what exactly did Tiwa Savage say? That's such a big deal. Let's take a look.
Because I don't think it came from a bad place.
Okay.
Well, let me talk to Inam because, first of all, Inam would love to know, as a South African or on behalf of South Africans, how do you feel, You know, how are you reacting to, you know, this whole issue between Tyla and Tiwa?
You know, sometimes people have the mistake of making a big deal out of something so small. South Africans, if I'm very honest, I speak for Ikhamente, when I say it wasn't that big of a deal. And I say it was not that big of a deal because in South Africa, we have coloreds. My grandmother was a colored. When you are going to...
My sister, please just explain what colored means.
So to be a colored, so let's start from
because
there.
color can mean
in South
blue,
Africa,
yellow.
you are either you are black, you are white,
Yes.
you are Indian, or you are colored. Then we've got what you call mixed. Trevor Noah is mixed. He's
So
not
white
colored.
and black.
Yes, Trevor Noah's father is white. His mother is Xhosa, black.
Yes.
Tyla is a colored.
Black
She's
and
not
Indian.
mixed. Yes, there is Indian, you know, mRNA or some sort in there. She is a colored female. So every now and again in South Africa, if you ask a colored lady, are you black? They will boldly say, I'm not black, I'm colored.
Meaning that colored, sorry. Meaning that colored is a mix of, you can be Caribbean.
So you are, if you're Indian, because we've got Cape Malays, which are
Yes.
Indians that you'd find, or Malaysian kind of thing, which are Indian. Then you've got coloreds. Coloreds can be a mix of black and Indian. It can be an Indian and whatever, but it is just their own demographic of colored people. There are colored people that can also be black and white, that will just say they are colored. But I say mixed because they don't speak Afrikaans. Now, the language that colored people speak is Afrikaans, which is what Tyla is. Trevor Noah doesn't speak Afrikaans. His father is German, his mother is Xhosa. That's a mixed man. So for us, I think it was just one of the things where it's like, you could have said nothing because you're colored.
But she herself has actually called herself colored
because
in the
that's
past.
what they call themselves. They call themselves ikalad. That's what we say. And that's
Okay,
how
but there's a difference. There's something you said earlier about how, you know, sometimes when, you know, you leave where you are and you go to the United States, you want to...
that was my problem with her.
But then you would understand with her, with Tyla, you would actually understand with her because right now she's a huge sensation.
No, but you see,
she is a United States citizen, so it's only normal for you to be able to, you know,
Dashen. It's absolutely, the math is not mathing.
Good.
When you are in South Africa and they want to categorize you as a South African, and I think that's the problem that we have sometimes with Africans, that the minute you get that blue passport, it's like there's an identity crisis that takes place. You are a citizen.
No, but she identifies as a United States citizen.
Since when, though? She identifies as a...
Dashen, wait. Let her land. I need to know where Inam is on this. We talked to establishing Tiwa and Tyla.
Tyla, likalat.
Is
Tyla is colored. My problem with the whole stance of her now, and because her defense to why she was offended by that was because in the United States, when you call someone colored, it's considered to be offensive. But you said that you identify as a South African colored. So at what point is it okay for you to be a South African colored and then now not be classified as a colored because in the United States, you see, this identify becomes a problem. Because you need to be clear which side of the divide that you stand. Are you colored? If you are not colored, let's take our colored back and you just be black.
So you're saying that what Tiwa did wasn't out
There was absolutely nothing wrong. And I'm saying this, but I said this to Dashen earlier as well, is that Tiwa is not a novice. She's been to South Africa before.
Yeah.
So she's not categorizing her as a colored because she's a person of color. It's because Tiwa Savage probably knows that in South Africa, people that look like Tyla are called coloreds, and not in an offensive manner. I'm black.
Yeah, but you said not in an offensive manner, right? But Tyla got offended, you know, by
So where do you
calling her-
stand,
But it's a
Dashen?
personal issue for her now. She no longer wants to be identified as colored. I do not know. I can't say if it's because, you know, she's a U.S. citizen now or not. And she stands by it. So Tiwa Savage, being a bigger person, she apologized. I don't know why, you know, it's hard to understand. It's just, for example, I'm black, right? There are lots of people in the U.S. who are black but identify as white as well.
But you see, the problem lies in this identify.
Yeah,
This identify is a different
issue is that, okay. Now, listen, for me, I would say that what Iman said I resonate with. My sister, you chose your colored. You said you are colored in South Africa. Now you're an American,
Yeah.
and you decide. It's like us Africans when we speak normal here. When we go to America, it's one gonna yo.
It's what-
We
and
just change and we go in it, and I don't get it. The way you were speaking here, what's wrong with that? That's why there's big respect for Burna Boy, because Burna Boy goes and speaks how he speaks normally. So we have that established. At the same time, I'm saying, Tiwa, who sent you message to go and say we are sorry? Is it the whole euphoria of being in the studio on the breakfast show that she went to say, oh, on behalf of, we are sorry?
Because she's a peacemaker.
See, I don't see anything wrong with that.
But
Because
I also need to ask, because one moment Tyla is on stage singing and dancing, and the next moment she's like, sorry, not sorry, eh? And all of a sudden, everyone seems to think she referred to Tiwa Savage. How? Did she mention Tiwa Savage's name?
I mean, everybody knows that there was a sorry that came up.
Yeah,
and on the
what
same,
was the sorry from?
and
She could be saying sorry to someone who she heard.
she's throwing
she's throwing
shade.
shade because on the same show that she said she was a colored, is it not still the same show where Tiwa said, we are sorry?
That on behalf of elders,
we are
you
sorry.
understand.
So
On
that's why
behalf
she's saying sorry but not sorry, because in her own way, she's saying, well, you're sorry, but I'm not.
So what I actually understand with her is the fact that normally Tiwa Savage being black and Tyler being colored, it shouldn't be an issue because it's a black person calling you colored, and normally we usually don't have issues with each other.
Yeah.
But the fact that she chooses to identify as she no longer chooses to identify as colored anymore, everybody needs to respect that. And I was telling Inam earlier that even in the United States itself, both black people, both red people, brown people, green people, they're all identified as colored. So it's not necessarily offensive.
And I think this is just where my annoyance comes in when we talk about the race card. Back then, during the time of slave trade, my sister, if you were Hispanic, you were black. If you were a Aborigine, you were black. Back then, during slave trade, when the master wanted to categorize you, you were either black or you were white. We are the ones that did this thing now where we decided to categorize it and compartmentalize it, and then you get offended when the person does not address you correctly. My thing is, even with Tiwa saying sorry, I understand why people are like, but why are you saying sorry? Because you didn't do anything wrong. Because really and truly, she didn't do anything wrong.
But you talked about Aboriginals, but do you know that Aboriginals are the real Americans?
Thank you very much.
Exactly. Before the Europeans came in, and they are now the Americans. So
and they don't even.
So the Americans, the Europeans who are in America now chose to be identified as Americans.
Yes.
So what's her name? Tyler chooses to be identified as an American.
So all I'm
not
saying,
colored.
my love,
so you respect her
Dashen,
decision.
all I'm saying, ladies, is that if Tyler no longer wants our coloredness,
She should give it back.
Give it back to us.
And I understand it. You don't choose to be colored when it suits you. And people feel that probably Tyler is just rude and badly behaved as a younger person. And people are saying, Tiwa just said, this one is like saying this way they say it in Europe. I don't mind this one in our Peking,
which is I personally agree, because if you behave like a child, you will be treated like a child. That's the reality. I'm not saying she's a child, but I'm just saying that maybe for her, she felt like the apology from Tiwa was perhaps not sincere. But at the end of the day, Tiwa was like, well, I didn't see a big deal, but because we see a big deal, what do you guys say in Ejo? So sorry about it.
But I also think that Tyler has been marinated in a lot of controversy in terms of her music and her interpretation of Afrobeats
how many
as well.
of her songs do you know?
There's that one she did.
People love Tyler is good. She has her following. People love her sound, which is okay. But there's also the thing of saying that she doesn't really do Afrobeats. Why are you celebrating her in that genre? And when she's been receiving awards previously, she hasn't really vibe to her Africanness.
And I think that's the problem that I have as well.
Exactly.
We know her because when she won an award, of course, she held the South African flag, and we're like, oh, too. But in her behavior and in her mannerisms,
she doesn't vibe as a South African.
She doesn't vibe as a South African.
It doesn't mean she doesn't see herself as an African or even colored.
You see, Tyler, for me now, we're benefits.
Exactly. So she can choose to identify as Indian, and nobody would say anything because
but you see, that's what I'm saying, is that because in Africa, heritage is a thing. Yes. It's like a Burna Boy.
Yeah.
Burna Boy will not get to the UK and then face.
Yeah.
That's what makes him him. That's his authenticity.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Now, if you are going to get there, and when you get there, we're like, see a question, man, we're not very, very sure. Then, like I said, if you don't identify as somebody that is I don't want to say indigent, but like I said, if you don't want this coloredness, Tina will take it back, and then the next person that comes and says, "Me, I want to be a colored," will say,
We'll give it to you,
"Tyla's
Tina."
own is vacant.
So
Take it."
I have a feeling. I have a feeling we'll not hear from this. This won't be the last.
No, it's
of Tyla. Tyla will be in the news for other things. Don't worry about it.
Well,
I can tell you that. Knock on wood.
Well, with independence, or Nigeria's Independence Day, just a day away, conversations around the strength of our independence and the meaning of freedom has taken center stage. So after the break, Cheta Nwanze, a partner at SBM Intelligence, will join us to unpack where we stand as a nation and what independence means 65 years on. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Jasiri. Wednesday, Nigeria turns 65. On paper, that's a milestone worth celebrating, but it also forces us to pause and ask the tough questions. 6.5 decades after independence, are Nigerians truly free, or are we still chained by insecurity, by poverty, by corruption, and by broken promises? Since 1960, Nigerians have walked a long road, from colonial rule to military juntas, and now 25 years of uninterrupted civilian government. But with independence and democracy comes doubt. Has it really delivered for ordinary people, or are we just recycling power among the same elite while citizens keep waiting for light, water, jobs, and justice? Today, let's examine Nigeria at 65, the progress, the failures, and the road ahead. Joining us is someone who never shies away from asking the very hard questions. Cheta Nwanze, he's a partner at SBM Intelligence, analyst and writer with deep insight into Nigeria's politics, policies, the economy, and everyday struggles. Cheta, it's amazing to have you back with us live in the studio. When you're not out of reach and you're on Zoom. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
How now?
Tired. I've been running around you people's sub-region. Let's just put it, the roads are not, okay, in some countries the roads are, Senegal, thank you.
I know.
In some other countries, Guinea-Bissau, Nigeria, we're done.
Well, Cheta, just before we go into the question, I just want to, understand. I want to hear from you. Are you excited about the independence tomorrow?
What's independent?
Here we.
Chai.
Okay. All right. So now let's talk about this. 65 years on, Nigerians are still asking, are we truly independent? I
No, we're
mean,
not.
with foreign loans, budgets, we're not independent. So why do you say we're not independent?
You just
Why?
said it, foreign loans. We're in chains. I mean, see, the way we are going.
So we don't have sovereignty?
Do we?
Hi, Cheta.
Let us look at, for example, when they had their coup in Niger, and Nigeria reacted. Was Nigeria pursuing Nigeria's interest or the interest of others? Think about it. And why were we pursuing the interest of others? Because we are beholden to other people. Now, the South Africans have better independence than we do because, and a large part of it is the nature of colonialism here. So subjugating Nigeria was a brutal process. But one of the things that the British did very well here, which they failed to do in Kenya, for example, in South Africa, was they did not erase a lot of what they did. So you find a lot of Nigerians of a generation before ours look back at colonialism with rose-tinted spectacles, forgetting the fact that the entirety of our elites are actually very, very beholden to those same colonial forces that put us where we are. So think about it. For example, the Minister of Federal Capital, that's the most high-profile one happening recently.
Yeah.
The quarrel he's having with Showore onto properties in the United States.
Yeah.
It is the same story with our entire elites. They are vested in other places, which means that they do not act in the interest of the Nigerian. But then we have to ask the fundamental question: what is the Nigerian, and what is the Nigerian's interest? What is the interest of this space called Nigeria? Because if you identify, there are two broad forces in Nigeria. One that looks towards Arabia for guidance, largely in the north, and one that looks towards the west for guidance, largely in the south. We don't have a common interest. And until we sit down honestly, and one of the problems of this country is that we have a hard time having these honest discussions.
Yeah.
Until we sit down honestly to have this discussion, who are we? What are we? Where are we going? We'll just keep running. So we'll be here in another 65 years, God keeping us, and we'll still be having this discussion.
Now, Shata, you mentioned something when you were making the comparison with South Africa. And I think in South Africa, when we think about freedom, there's those pictures that used to trend about Nelson Mandela walking out of prison with Winnie Mandela in his hand. And we all knew that fist pump stood for something. So, I mean, when we're talking about Nigeria gained its independence in 1960. And when
Nigeria had a transfer of power in 1960.
All right, I beg your apologies. Now, the dream when that took place was freedom, it was dignity, and of course it was prosperity. So my question to you, based on what you said, is do you think the country's founding fathers right now would recognize the Nigeria of today, or would they say that the country is still colonized?
Nigeria's founding father will recognize the country of today because that's the way he designed it. Nigeria's founding father was a chap called George Goldie, and he designed the country exactly to work the way it works. So there's an argument that I used to make. I started writing articles about Nigeria being a failed state back in 2010. I was wrong. Nigeria is one of the most successful states on the planet because it's working exactly as it was designed to work. In the 100 years of colonialism in Nigeria, there was not a point in time where there were more than 5,000 British people or Europeans living in the space that is now called Nigeria. And the country was optimized for their comfort. So you had, at the transfer of power in 1960, you had 47 million people, about 5,000 Europeans. What's the proportion of that? That's 1 in 10,000.
Right.
And the country was optimized for their benefits. Now, think of Nigeria's political elite today. Nigeria's political elite is not up, maybe roughly about 20,000 people. By the time you look at so Nigeria's political and business elites, when you look at all the elected officials, the people that hang around them, and then the top business elites, give or take about 20,000 people, population about 213 million. So it's still roughly the same proportion. The country is working for the same proportion of people. And the rest of us in the elites, well, all of us around here, not you, South Africa, but all of us around this table, we are in the elites. We are just not in the super elites. The country works for the super elites.
Now, I'm going to I probably will circle back to what you just said. But let's look at this let's look at democracy and governance on this long 65-year walk. So we recently celebrated 25 years of uninterrupted civilian rule. That's a record in Nigeria's history. But does longevity equal maturity? Or are we just recycling faces and failures under the banner of democracy and independence? Are we in a loop?
Let me ask you a question. What we have, is it a democracy?
Chetan, I would like to answer this question, but it will take us on a different trajectory because we've sat on this table on Jasiri and we've asked the question.
It's a part of what we have is a quadrennial head count. But all of the things that make a democracy do not exist. Let's start with the most basic one, rule of law, which has become a passion of mine. We do not have rule of law in Nigeria. So if you don't have rule of law, you can't call yourself a democracy. Think about it this way. Quam 1 and what some people will call Quam 2.
Yeah.
See how it ended.
Yeah.
To show you how uninterested we are in rule of law, that was the perfect opportunity for us, given that something so egregious happened and then another thing so egregious happened so close after. It was a perfect opportunity to say, in the interest of justice, let us punish Quam 1 so that everybody will see that every human being is equal in the eyes of the law.
Yeah.
That is true independence. But what did Nigeria do? We released Quam 2 so that we will not punish Quam 1. So the picture that you are putting, those are not our founding fathers. Our founding fathers were George Goldie, Flora Shaw, and Frederick Lugard. Those were our founding fathers. They are the ones who created what we know as Nigeria today.
So what would you term these? What would you term these our brothers as?
Shepherds. They just shepherded the thing from one set of rulers to another. What happened at the transfer of power was that they simply moved from Surulere to Ikoyi.
Okay.
They did not sit down to look at what they had been bequeathed and create a country or create a nation. We are a country, not a nation, and people need to understand the distinction.
So, Cheta, you're saying in all these leaders that we have
They're
had,
all shepherds.
that none would have said, there's none to say
The
that.
closest we have had to a true leader since the transfer of power is Olusegun Obasanjo.
Really?
Well, sadly, we actually need to go on a break. And, when she talked about the fist pump, we know that independence is supposed to hand power back to the people, and we're not feeling that at the moment.
I'm feeling in my mission here because she's still calling it independence.
I'm really going to say people like you do not believe that we are independent. You believe that, Nigeria simply swapped colonial masters for internal colonizers, so we're not even sovereign at all. That's what I'm just speaking, I'm just, reiterating what you have actually
said. I have not yet succeeded in my
You will succeed after the break.
Break right now. We'll be back, for more discussions and to stay with us.
You are welcome back. Now, when Nigeria talks about independence, it's not just about breaking free from colonial rule. 65 years ago, it's about what the country has built since then. Independence should mean self-determination, good governance, and institutions that serve the people. But Nigeria's democratic journey has been marked by both milestones and missteps. From leadership accountability to the strength of its institutions, the role of civil society, and how ordinary citizens experience governance, independence raises the big question again. How free and how empowered are Nigerians today? Now, still with us is our guest for today, Sheta, and I'll bring this back to you again. Don't crucify me, because I know it's still based on democracy. Sheta, Nigeria is often called Africa's largest democracy. But now you tell me, and I think I'm just hitting the gong because you said this before the break, if citizens can't hold leaders accountable, if courts are easily swayed, and if elections spark more anger than confidence, what does the country's size mean without substance?
So I think the first definition of what a country, a functional country should be, is a country or an entity, a state, that exists to provide the best possible living for the majority of people within its borders. Nigeria does not do that. Now, what does democracy mean? Because it's a question that's very intertwined.
Right.
Yeah.
There are different kinds of democracies. There are illiberal democracies. There are liberal democracies. Some people would call some of what I define as democracies autocracies. But at the base of everything is what you call a social contract. An understanding between the governed and the governors. I really hate the word rule because it connotes a lot of things.
Yeah.
But the governed and the governors, a social contract between them that we give you power and you provide us this. In Nigeria, that has been trampled every day. We claim we're a democracy. The president illegally removed the state governor. The Supreme Court kicked it into the long grass and did nothing about it. And to show you that the Supreme Court was working, in that period, they sat on local government autonomy, they sat on, is it tax reform or something, you know, basically things that were in the interest of the executive. A very clear sign that they have been suborned by the executive. That's not an independent country.
Yeah.
That's a country that is beholden to narrow interests. An independent country is a country where all of us are able to come and have a discussion at the loudest, and we're very raucous people.
Yeah.
We can come and have that discussion at the loudest voices, abuse ourselves, but at the end of the day,
We've had a discussion.
we've had a discussion and we agree on a direction. We don't have that.
All right. Now, we talk about democracy, and we also got into it, you know, we almost got into it during the break. And so many people, on one hand, people are saying democracy doesn't work for Nigerians. And on the other hand, other people are saying that it's because we've not gotten a democracy that is tailored for us, Nigeria, that would work for us. But democracy is actually the way forward. So is it time for us to stop thinking about what democracy has given to Nigeria and start asking what kind of democracy Nigeria really needs?
In many respects, that's one of the right questions. What kind of democracy Nigeria needs? What we have done with Decree 28 of 1998, which some people call the 1999 Constitution, is that we have imported the American style and transplanted it here.
Whether it suited our palates or not.
Whether it suited our palates or not. The first problem with the American style is that it is too expensive. First, Nigeria is too poor to be able to afford that kind of nonsense. And you can see it every election, increasing amounts of money are spent, and then we end up high and dry every election season. That needs to stop. What we need, in my view, of course, because again, these things are subject, I don't have all the answers. These things are subject to should be subject to a very healthy debate. In my view, what we need is a democracy of the lowest level. Something akin to what they practice in China. In my view, China is a democracy. It's just not a liberal Western-style democracy. But they have a social contract with the Communist Party. You give us prosperity, and that contract was solidified during the reign of Deng Xiaoping. You give us prosperity, and we'll leave you in power. Nigeria was richer than China when I was born. China is now the richest country in the world in terms of PPP. That is in a span of just over 4 decades. So that is a social contract that has delivered. We need a social contract. We need to be able to hold our elites by their balls and say, guys, this is what we want. And you give it to us. And in my view, we missed a critical opportunity in 2019. Because you see, in 2015, a lot of us, mistakenly as it has turned out because of the way things happened, voted to remove a sitting president. The person who replaced him performed even worse. But in 2019, we now allowed sentiments to keep the man in power. What we missed with that was we missed the opportunity for our political elites to begin to fear the people. And as long as political elite do not fear the people, you don't have sovereignty. You don't have independence. If we had removed Muhammadu Buhari in 2019, we'll be having a very different conversation in Nigeria today. So removing Goodluck Jonathan in 2015 was not the original sin. The original sin was the failure to follow up on that by letting the political elite know that, guy, if you mess up, you come out.
Consequences.
So what didn't we do right then?
We allowed sentiments. We allowed sentiment creeping. One of the reasons, there are a lot of people. So, in terms of macroeconomy, Tinubu is doing well. I'm not going to take that away from him. In terms of microeconomy, he's doing very badly. But notice, a lot of people from northern Nigeria cannot speak. Because when Buhari was mismanaging, many of them did not speak. He is their son. So we have defaulted to that, we've defaulted to footballification. So I'm a Juventus fan. you're a Juventus fan. No matter what you say, we are in the same group. So I will support you. He's an Arsenal fan. We must beat you up.
Yeah.
It's our own.
He's our own.
So we're
That is
very
what we defaulted to.
sentimental people.
So because of that, we are going to be stuck in this loop of bad governance for a while until somebody is bold enough to break it. But given the way the current government is running, I don't see the next government breaking it. It's not going to happen.
All right, so let's flesh independence. Originally, independence was, freedom from foreign interferences, or what you call foreign domination. But how do we reconcile that with a democracy that is totaled or that is funded by government, by foreign loans, monitored by global powers, like monitoring spirits, and often pressured by external interests? How do we, you cannot thrive when there's a hand always close to your neck.
You can never be independent if you're not economically independent. It's just that simple.
You say that the present president is doing well macroeconomically.
Yes, on the big things. That's why, for example, you talk to the average banker, they're very happy with him. But then what percentage of the population are bankers?
But wasn't that his plan, one of his points in the agenda, to when he comes into office, he's going to turn around the face of macroeconomics?
And haven't we paid off our loans?
He also promised...
Dashen. I'm listening. Cheta, please, you were saying. He also promised,
She has derailed me.
Confused you.
I said, no, that question is so... I was like, truly... No, I've forgotten what she asked because you asked, I mean, it just blew up everything that was in my head.
Okay.
Replay no Bible.
But they came out to say that our loans have been
I should say it in this small voice.
I'm serious.
That's...
Oh, I see. So, I see. Kahana could have, please. So let us continue. Where were we?
So I was saying, but that was one of the points on his agenda when he came to power.
Yes, and he also promised to improve the lives of Nigerians, didn't he?
Yeah, because I remember when he said the poor must breathe, let the poor breathe.
And are the poor breathing?
But maybe that's his plan for the second sequence of
Please, there's no...
Not sequence like Paul said, but...
See, once you don't have rule of law, the best you will have, and we have been doing well on that, is foreign portfolio investors. People who come, pack their money because of high yields, and then at the slightest whiff of wahala, they carry their money plus their profits and go.
Yeah.
We haven't created the conditions for foreign direct investments, the kind of thing that will create jobs, which is what we need. There was something that Jean Germain told Bill Clinton. You worry about things like X Factor. I worry about creating 25 million jobs every year. That is what the Nigerian president should be most worried about. Creating jobs for Nigerians. But what did we do about that? We changed the definition of unemployment. So that suddenly we have this misnomer where Nigeria's official unemployment rate is 4%, but based on a definition of 1 hour work a week.
Yeah.
How does that work? When you cannot correctly identify the problem, you can't solve it. We're not even correctly identifying the problems because we are so vested in propaganda and good news that people who tell you... So I'll give an example. A year and a half ago, my organization published a report about the deteriorating security situation in Abuja.
Yeah.
And the report was in-depth. And what were we called? We are painting Nigeria black. Blah, 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 blah. What happened yesterday?
True.
An Arise TV news anchor in an upmarket area of Abuja was killed in her house.
Yeah.
God rest the dead.
Amen.
On the way here, at $2 Bridge, there are 2 dead bodies. They've been there for 48 hours.
Yeah, I saw past one.
Yeah, they've been there for 48 hours. You know how they were killed? Unfortunately for both of them, walking around at night, area boys approach them, and from everything that we hear, they no longer ask you for, give me your phone.
Yeah.
They just stab you and then collect it afterwards.
Oh my goodness.
So we are seeing a deterioration in insecurity. And if we take that Decree 28 of 1998, what is the first line that the Nigerian government is supposed to guarantee the lives and security of the people of Nigeria. The government is failing spectacularly at that. Instead, the government is more interested in the appearance of doing good. So suddenly, white Christian nationalists in America, for their own purposes, it must be said, are talking about the killing of Christians in Nigeria. The government is not concerned about addressing the root causes of those killings. And yes, so there are so many things that can be true at the same time. In the Boko Haram insurgency, more Muslims have been killed than Christians. But in the Middle Belt, more Christians have been killed. So these things are all true.
But there has been killings constantly throughout the governance of the country. There has been constant killings from Boko Haram to Benue to Plateau.
Yes, but it has accelerated in recent times. Again, we have the data. It has accelerated. Because what has happened is that Nigeria has devolved into fiefdoms. So essentially you have the mayor of Abuja called the president, and then the mayors of 36 small areas, and with the exception of 4 or 5 states that have more than one city. So as an example, Delta State that has Asaba and Warri, Abia State that has Umuahia and Aba. With the exception of those kind of states, it is now the government has effectively ceded the control of the country to non-state actors. How can you call such a country independent?
All right, Chita, put a pin on that. Let's go for a short break here at this point. When we return, let's see how we can take a look at democracy at crossroads and how it's looking from tomorrow when Nigeria will be 65 and onwards. We'll be right back. This is Jasiri.
Well, I think
nothing.
No.
Just go. At 65.
No. At 65, yeah, we will talk about that. But I think we will not. This conversation will not end without Cheta saying something about the borrowing that I talked about earlier, because our leaders came out to say that we had actually repaid $3.4 billion IMF loans, and you're trying to explain to me that yes, we had repaid that, but we borrowed much more. Just briefly speak on that before we move to the next question.
What, do you want to give me a headache?
No, I'm sorry.
Let's just put it like this. One day, and it probably will not be Bola Tinubu, but one day, President of Nigeria will go for something. They will seize his plane, and they will give him economic ticket and say they're going back. It's going to happen. That's when you people's eye will clear about how much debt we are in. Shall we go on?
So I just want to say something, because of course there was a conversation that we were having during the break. It's unfortunate, and it's fortunate at the same time, that there are so many similarities between Nigeria and South Africa, some good, some bad. But of course, when we talk about democracy and independence and freedom, we talk about the people. There was something that you said, which we also took note of on Monday, about what happened in 2019. And you made mention of a government that does not fear the people. Now, there's a difference between South Africa and Nigeria. I said to them on Monday that the government in South Africa still fears the people. And I think that is why for the longest time...
The judiciary in South Africa is still independent.
Right. So I think my question to you now is that how do we mitigate that and put together a system and a structure where the people still have a voice and the government and democracy understands that they are for the people? How do we fix that?
So the people need to be able to speak with one voice. Unfortunately, in Nigeria now, the Nigerian people, because there are not many Nigerian people. There are people in this space called Nigeria. So what you have is a situation where, for example, I'm an Igbo man, and there are people right now who, the moment they see my name, Chetakwa Nachukwu Nomonso Wanze, and they know that Abumoyi Igbo, it prejudices everything that they hear. So because of that, we are not going to hear, we are not going to have an honest discussion. And until we can overcome that, we will not move forward. Because it becomes very easy for dishonest actors in governance to use those cleavages against us.
Yeah.
So essentially knock our heads against each other.
Yeah.
So think about it this way. Owambe. That's whole nonsense that happened.
Yeah.
That was a classic case of using an ethnic thing to distract attention from what was a burning issue. The day before, Gbadebo Rhodes Vivo had been attacked in Alimosho when he was trying to join the ADC.
Yeah.
The same day before, 60 people were killed in between Kano and Edo states. But we now started, we got so distracted with an ethnic problem that all of that was swept under the rug. So until we are able to understand that it doesn't matter whether the person is from Ogbomosho, or the person is from Amansi, or the person is from Cotton Karifi, all of us will go to the same market, and all of us will see tuber of yam
At the same price.
for 4,800 naira. And all of us will see that tuber of yam for 4,800 naira, and all of us will shout, Chineke. And all of us, despite what we call it, is the same Chineke that we will say, because that price is out of. Until we can understand that the problem, the koboko, they touch all our back. So let us speak with one voice about that koboko that is touching our back. Until we can realize that we're not going anywhere.
Let's speak with one voice, Cheta.
Yeah.
I think Nigeria has always struggled with that. We say unity in diversity. That's such a strong term. It's a strong phrase, unity in diversity, but I think that we struggle with that. But piggybacking on what you just said, if you had to identify one recurrent defining failure of our government for the past 65 years in this country, one recurring defining problem that still chains Nigeria, what would it be?
Rule of law.
Rule of law, ne?
If you said pick one, rule of law. Every single government, including the Obasanjo government that I praised, has on one or multiple occasions treated the rule of law as a suggestion. You want us to list?
No,
government.
I said I would circle back to this thing you just said. What was it about the Obasanjo government that you think stood out in the whole governance of Nigeria as a country?
If you take a chart of Nigeria's economic growth from 1960 till now, the fastest period of growth in our history was between 2003 and 2007. And it is unarguable. All of us felt it. You were not here, so you didn't feel it.
You know, funny enough that he says that, because when I was growing up, and my mom always, anytime she would talk about Nigeria, it would always be Obasanjo that she would,
remember.
Yes, all the time.
Like the
first president, when I first heard about Nigeria, I was very, very young. And the first name that ever stuck to me was Obasanjo.
Yeah.
So the thing is, Obasanjo didn't do it once, he did it twice. Because if you go back, with the exception of the oil boom, which we all know was fueled by things like the Yom Kippur War and all of that.
Yeah.
The other very rapid period of growth in our history was between 76 and 79. Who happened to be in charge then? Obasanjo.
Okay.
So bad man, I would say, very bad man.
Yeah.
But God bless Olusegun Obasanjo.
So before Dashen goes on,
we're actually there's no time.
What did you want to say quickly?
Because we've been talking about so much of the bad, and before he leaves, I wanted us to at least talk about a seed that suggests that independence is not wasted at the moment in Nigeria.
That's a great question. So all of this that we are going through is nation formation, and nation formation, you guys, you are all women.
Yeah.
I know that at least you have children.
Yes.
It's a painful process. I'm an Igbo man married to a Yoruba woman. My children are Nigerians.
Yes.
And interethnic marriages, they've been on a decline in the last few years, anecdotally, but they are there.
Yeah.
So in my lifetime, I have seen some ethnic groups disappear. So for example, the Isoko ethnic group. There are still Isoko people, for example, your uncle Mazino.
Yeah.
But there are not many Isoko people from his generation who are married to fellow Isoko people.
Yes.
The majority of them are married to either Robo, Igbo, or Yoruba. So the children are not. So that's tainted blood thing that some morons talk on Twitter. We're having more of them, and that is the Nigerian inheritance.
So bottom line, let's speak with one voice. You know, no Igbo, no Yoruba, but we couldn't tell any about Shiani. So let's speak with one voice. 65 years on, Nigeria's independence story is still being written, not in history books, but in the daily struggles and small victories of its people. So what we've heard today reminds us that freedom is more than a flag or an anthem. It is about building systems that serve citizens, creating opportunities that outlast governments, and nurturing hope that doesn't fade with each election cycle. Independence is not a destination. It is a constant work in progress. So the real question is whether Nigeria has the courage to confront its failures honestly and the vision to turn its abundant potential into lived reality. As we leave this conversation, one thing is clear: the future of Nigeria's independence depends on all of us. So thank you so much, Cheta, once again for speaking with us.
Thank you so much.